Since Pakistani car owners love to collect and kill, their brake discs need to be replaced frequently. In order to allow car owners to buy affordable products, their small workshops use scrap iron to melt and cast. Through simple processing of car windows, these brake discs can be used directly. In front of us is a small Foundry workshop in Peshawar, Pakistan. In order to make the sand and soil reusable, they added a proper amount of engine oil to the mixer, which can increase the viscosity of the sand and soil and prevent the mold from cracking and damage. Of course, their mixer is modified from the rear axle. It will not affect the mixing and processing of sand and soil at all. As the sand and soil gradually soften, talcum powder should be sprinkled on the surface of the sand wheel disc. When the sand and soil are filled into the sandbox, the stone powder can separate the two into layers to prevent the sand and soil from being absorbed on the surface of the sand wheel disc mold. In this way, there will be no cracking when demolding. Then use a new sandbox to build the base. Compact the filled sand and soil to minimize the appearance of sandstone. When the upper and lower layers of the mold are formed, now the solid station mold can be taken out without damage, but it is definitely not able to meet the requirements of gluing at this time. In order to avoid cracking when gluing, the surface of the sand must be heated at high temperature. In this way, the mold can be hardened completely. Even if the inside is instantly exposed to high temperature molten iron, it will not crack due to the temperature. Because the brake discs are double layer ventilated, a prepared sand core must be placed inside. Such a finished brake disc can dissipate heat better. After completing all the preparations for the mold, considering that the brake discs must be both affordable and durable, their small workshops will recycle these scrap iron racks as the main raw material for the glue column. The purpose of smashing all the scrap iron is that because the diameter of their cupola is not large, the pieces can not only improve the efficiency of heating and melting, but also save space in the furnace, and the molten iron conversion rate is the highest. After heating for an hour, all the scrap iron blocks have been turned into molten iron. In order to facilitate pouring into the mold, they will also use glue column barrels to pack the molten iron to prevent the temperature of the molten iron from dropping and affecting the quality of the glue column. After the molten iron in the mold is flush with the glue column, this means that all molds have been glued. This kind of small glue column part can be demolded directly without waiting for cooling, so as to free up the sandbox for subsequent mass production. Then the demolded brake discs are uniformly left to stand. After cooling overnight, the surface of the blank is very rough. In order to remove all the sand on the surface, it needs to be sandblasted by a sandblasting machine to avoid affecting the subsequent lathe processing operation. After 20 minutes of sandblasting, the glossiness of the surface has been improved a lot. In order to meet the standards for loading and use, the surface needs to be cut by a lathe. In this way, the rough surface can be smooth and flat, and the brake pad can better contact with it. After the front side is cut, the surface also needs to be cut. However, lathe processing will cause the thickness to become thinner. The blank has reserved processing space in the early stage, which can restore the original size and make the surface meet the requirements of use. Then use a bench drill to drill holes. Then it can be fixed with bolts later. This kind of iron brake disc is easy to rust. The surface needs to be sprayed with rust-proof agent to facilitate the subsequent storage in the warehouse. The contact surface with the brake pad cannot have any coating. It needs secondary cutting and processing. The main purpose is to remove the excess rust-proof agent to avoid affecting the normal braking performance. The brake disc glued by scrap iron can be installed and used normally. What do you think of such a brake disc?